Titans, go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in Titans Tower, or possibly for one of the last times at this year, Doom Manor, and back ready to talk the season finale Doom Patrol with Jesse Jackson, everyone's favorite Titan Talk co-host. Hi, Jesse. How are you?
Hey, Charles. Yep, we're about to throw sheets over the Doom Patrol furniture.
Yeah.
And kind of close it up for
The year?
the summer.
Yeah.
Maybe, we're going to go to our winter home. But
Yes.
We've had a lot of fun.
Yes. Now, we're not going to be entirely done because we are going to do a wrap-up special.
Absolutely.
But as far as the season goes, this will be it because we're going to hear at episode 35, we're going to talk Ezekiel Patrol, the season 1 finale of Doom Patrol, as Chris walks in his boxer shorts.
Yeah.
And this would be the 15th and final episode of Doom Patrol Season 1, just released a couple days ago on May 24th, 2019. And written by Tamara Becker-Wilkinson and also Jeremy Carver, the showrunner, who we haven't seen since the pilot, writing an episode, and also Shoshana Sachi. So we've got 3 of the more notable writers on the show. And also this was directed by Dermot Downs, who also directed the previous episodes, Donkey Patrol and Danny Patrol. And I can't wait to get your thoughts on this one, Jesse.
Yeah, it was a mixed bag for me. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I think they did what they do, and I think everything good about this series is here. And then the things that at times I think they stretch a little too much was here as well.
Okay.
That broad enough?
It is, and it's not entirely. I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
This one isn't. I enjoyed this one, but I could see why you might not be as enamored with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm going to give it a decent rating.
Yeah.
I just there were a few things that and as we talk about it, we'll talk about where I don't know if they needed to go there. I also don't know if they stuck the landing.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions, and I'll wait till the end to ask them.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. But so guest cast this week. We obviously get the return of Alan Tudyk as Mr. Nobody, who's obviously a major player in this one.
Absolutely.
We get the return of Phil Morris as Silas Stone.
Yes.
Tommy Snyder as Ernest Franklin, the Beard Hunter, or at least formerly Beard Hunter.
Right.
We get the return of Curtis Armstrong as Ezekiel the Cockroach.
Yes.
Who's back and ready to become a prophet of doom here on Doom Patrol's finale. We get Alimi Ballard as Joshua Clay, who we haven't seen for since I think the 6th episode, Doom Patrol.
Right.
We get more of his character and his previous interaction with the Chief. And we also get the return of Sharman Lee as Eleanor Stone, Silas's wife, Victor's mom, who has also an interesting connection to the Chief, as we find out in this episode. And we get the return of Ethan McDowell as the younger Charles Forsythe. No relation.
Yes.
Once again. So pretty much, not a lot of new actors in this one. But But this kind of, because it's a season finale, it kind of brings a lot of the season together in the
and
finale.
and I liked seeing the scenes where they brought back the actors who had played some of Jane's personas
Hmm.
when she's down.
Yeah, her
Yeah,
various personalities.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I was good seeing that.
yeah. I have to think that they probably filmed these scenes probably around the same time,
I would think so.
but they kind of held off, obviously, for the finale. But it worked out really well. I thought it was
Yeah,
good to see the underground once again.
it was, and it was.
And what,
I always like seeing the underground and the other personas talking to Jane and being protective of her at the same time, giving her a hard time. It's just a
right?
very interacting, and we got to see Kay.
Yes, we got to see young Kay once
Yeah,
again. And I think the young actress's name is Sky Roberts, if I'm not mistaken. But
okay,
I think she's very adorable, and one of the things we'll talk about when we talk about Jane later is that that you kind of was a little concerned when all of a sudden you hear her daddy's voice going, "Sweet, sweet baby," whispering once again.
I was.
And but thankfully, Hammerhead was looking out for young
Yeah.
Kay in that one. All right, trivia this week. So there's one new callback to the comic books, Grant Morrison's run in this one. Obviously, this is the painting I want to talk about
Okay.
because this is kind of loosely based on a concept Morrison introduced in Doom Patrol number 26 through 29, which was the first storyline with Mr. Nobody and the Brotherhood of Dada, who we haven't seen yet here on the show, but we've obviously seen Mr. Nobody. And the painting was, in the comics, was a painting called The Painting That Ate Paris. And it was like this, in the comics, it was this mysterious unnamed painting that had many levels. So it was kind of like multidimensional, kind of like we see here. And it was said to absorb anybody who gazed upon it,
Hmm.
which is kind of what happens here, as that's how the Doom Patrol gets into the painting. So this was an idea, a story concept that Morrison came up with. In the comics, Mr. Nobody and the Brotherhood of Dada used it to take the entire city of Paris captive, but of course they get stopped by the Doom Patrol, to
Okay.
put it very simply. And so it's kind of nice to, if you're a Morrison fan, you probably appreciated that little nod to the comics.
Good.
But it wasn't obviously something like, if you didn't read the comics, you could follow along pretty much what was going
Absolutely.
on. All right.
I think they've done a really good job of that. That they, um, it isn't one of those where you've said, well, Jesse, if you want, like sometimes Game of Thrones people will say that.
Yeah.
If you had read the book, you kind of would have seen what they're doing there. This
Right.
one truly is just very much standalone, but they give just a little hint of comic book fans to kind of, you can go, oh, I see what you did there.
Right, exactly. It's obviously more nods than you may get on some other superhero TV shows,
Right.
but they're written in such a way that they're not essential. It's like you don't have to have read the comic book to follow along,
Yeah, absolutely.
which is the way it should be, because
Yes,
you're
it should.
you're trying to reach a broader audience. I mean, as much as comic book fans would love to think about it, um, most of the world does not read comic books.
Exactly.
They just know the TV shows and the movies, and they know that, so they don't have that background like we comic book fans do.
Right.
And so, in the sense of the sense of Doom Patrol, essentially reading the comic books is kind of like extra credit.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have to, it's not mandatory reading, but if you kind of want to dig into it a little deeper, it's there if you want to.
Absolutely.
And I think that's good. So it's an available resource, and maybe something that you want to check out in the off season,
Yeah.
as we wait very patiently for hopefully a Doom Patrol season 2.
I think I'm going to do that. I did, as a side note, I read
Yes.
the Batman 66 Legion of Superhero
Yeah.
team up on
Right.
the app.
Okay.
And was a lot of fun. I don't read a lot of comics on my my iPad or my
Yeah,
Kindle, and so, but I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because I'm a big Legion fan, and
right.
so y- some of them you have to really make sure you've got a big enough screen because the fonts and the coloring can be difficult on a small screen.
Well, I normally have like mine's about a 9 incher,
Yeah.
a 9 inch iPad.
Okay.
And the good thing is that you can obviously drag your fingers
Right.
and expand things if things get a little too
Yeah.
small for you.
Yeah. So I'm planning now that the season's over. I think I'm gonna check out that.
That's one of
Yeah.
the advantages of digital comics that you can just
Yes.
blow things up
Absolutely.
and really get into the details if you really want to kind of scrutinize stuff without a magnifying glass
Exactly.
or a magnifying glass app these days.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, got to stay current, right?
Yeah,
All
you
right,
do.
all right. So 3 topics this week, and I do have a theme.
Okay.
I'm not sure Jesse is going to get this theme, but we'll give it a shot. All right. So topic number 1, I want to talk about live forever. And that's a reference to an Oasis song,
Okay.
Live Forever, by the band Oasis. This is a song that was back from 1994. I'll just put that out there because I'm sure Jesse's kind of like arching his eyebrow going, huh? But so Live Forever. So I want to talk about the Chief. And I
Okay.
want to talk about his daughter, who we have confirmation is in fact Dorothy Spinner from the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol run and a little earlier, before Morrison. Um, and the story that connects these two characters, and we kind of pick up on the revelations. We kind of follow right up with the cliffhanger from last week. We pick right up, and I want to get your thoughts on um, the chief and his struggle with the truth, and how he finally comes clean because he's so desperate to protect his daughter.
Yeah. So he talks about, and I was very clear on that part of it, where because he needed to live one day longer than she did, so
Right,
that he can protect her, is exactly what he said about it.
right.
And so
Which is obviously something of a loving father would do.
right, and so he had to, so he was doing experiments on how to stay alive, longevity,
Right.
and so that explains, yeah,
Immortality, at least. Yeah.
yeah, that explains a little bit
Right.
of why we keep mentioning, God, they're old. What's going on?
Right. And
Um,
that's something that, we kind of picked up on, but
mhm.
they haven't really addressed on the show.
Right. So I
And
thought that
they
was
still haven't really fully addressed it yet.
no. But I really liked that. I thought that was really well done.
Right.
Um, I probably need to watch it again because of all the time jumps. Though they
Yes.
did a good job of kind of showing things.
Right.
Um, they talked about the test pilot. They mentioned they show him being the chief very upset that the car wreck was supposed to happen on the track.
Right.
So he
Yeah,
was very guilty
that
about
was
that.
yeah, that was the big scene with the chief and Eleanor, and that
Yeah.
was like I want to say that was um maybe 19 or no, it was like 2000 something.
Yeah.
Or wait,
Um,
or maybe that was a little earlier. It'd have to be in the 1980s,
yeah.
right? Yeah, 1988. That's what it was.
I liked all the behind the scenes about that.
Right.
And but I do not feel, and maybe I just missed it. Why does Mr. Nobody want the chief so badly?
Well, I think it's kind of revenge, but
On
um,
what? What
well,
did the chief do to him?
I don't think we fully got that story. We got a tease of it. If you remember early in the season, um, when we had Puppet Patrol
Yeah.
and Von Fuchs and Fuchtopia was doing the whole puppet show.
Right.
and that Von Fuchs was there with Morden, and then the chief shows up. You know, we get it demonstrated through puppetry that the chief showed up.
Yeah.
And shot Von Fuchs.
Yeah.
So the question is, what happened around that time?
Yeah.
I think, and I don't think we've got that full story yet.
Okay. I did not feel.
Yeah.
It was.
Do you remember what what I'm talking about here?
I do, and I just was kind of, because I got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has this grudge.
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly why yet. So, and I'm guessing we probably haven't seen the last of Mr. Nobody, which we'll talk about him in our third segment.
So that was my first issue with it. Is I kind of thought we needed to get that payoff on the first season.
Okay.
Just not every mystery, but enough to know. And the implication is that Jane's daughter is special in some way.
You mean the chief's daughter?
Yeah, chief's daughter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that way, and so I was okay them not explaining why, because that's a good cliffhanger. You know, they don't show her.
Right.
That way they have the freedom to try to cast somebody. Obviously she is the chief's daughter from his great love, which is why they showed that backstory.
Yes, Slava. Yeah. And but yeah, so we obviously get the full story that the chief and Slava had a kid.
Yeah.
And the chief's, she's obviously very powerful.
Yes.
And if you remember Slava, the chief realized that Slava had all these immense psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And obviously those have passed down to their daughter, Dorothy.
Yeah. And
Dorothy, because she's a character from the comics, she has these kind of like a little reality warping type powers.
So she is in the comics. We don't know what they're going to do on the TV show.
Essentially, her powers are very imagination based.
So kind of like the Bill Mummy character on the classic Twilight Zone.
A little bit, but nowhere near as sinister.
Okay, but that's just the intent.
Yeah, exactly. So, and unless they completely reinvent Dorothy as a character, she's a very nice girl. She's very well meaning.
Okay.
But she just happens to have these powers of her imagination.
Yeah.
And because she has essentially it starts off that she has these imaginary friends that she brings to life in the comics.
Okay.
And that's kind of how the Doom Patrol gets involved.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I'm curious to see, obviously, season 2, we'll see where things go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, back to that, the chief, I quite didn't understand their dynamic, but I did understand his dynamic, and I thought they got a good idea.
Right.
The means justifies, the end justifies the means.
Yeah.
He's like, any sacrifice to help my family.
Right.
And that's a common theme. See Breaking Bad, Walter White. Everything I've done for my family.
Yeah. So it's essentially that. It is kind of like, well, I'm trying to, the end's justifying the means, but it's also, you see his desperation.
Yes.
That he's so focused on protecting his daughter. He doesn't care that he screwed up all these people's lives.
No, he doesn't. And even though,
and that's why they're justifiably upset with him.
Yeah, and even though the people around him,
right,
especially like Josh, really
warning him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we get that. Even though we learned that Joshua Clay knew about what was going on, as we're told that we get the revelation that he was in the ant farm.
Yeah.
And we don't know why Joshua is suddenly still looking so youthful, right?
Right.
I mean, he looks fresh as a daisy as he did in 1961.
Yeah, and
in the modern era. So yeah. I have to think that there's more to the whole immortality saga that I think we're gonna
and
get. I think that's gonna be the focus of season 2. I'm gonna call this now.
And I think that they want. I think the idea was and I'm guessing that they use themselves as guinea pigs, right?
Yeah. So well, also because I think what they're setting up here, I think they're setting up a classic Doom Patrol villain called General Immortus.
Okay.
And the reason I think this is because we got a kind of a couple of nods of the the Immortus project.
Yes.
That's the name of the project that the chief was working on in his quest for immortality.
Okay.
Now, General Immortus in the comics was this really old guy that was obsessed with finding the secret to immortality.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he knew the chief back in the day.
Okay.
So maybe General Immortus in this series is going to be the chief's benefactor to fund his research or something, so that he can partake in the results, perhaps. Mm-hmm. But so I'm thinking General Immortus, that we're going to see him in our second season. I think they've been kind of teasing this, because even though we finally get some confrontation of the whole subject of immortality, we still don't know exactly how everybody became immortal.
Yeah.
Here. And we don't know how Jane is immortal, for one thing. We could kind of understand Rita and Larry and Cliff, obviously, because of his metal body. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think that's going to be a theme in season 2.
Yeah. So I did have another question. When Jane goes in the modern time to talk to Clay, looking for help, it appears we saw children around.
Yes.
But I thought that was just an illusion he had for the Doom Patrol.
I think it is. Okay, I think those. So I think that I assume, at least the way I assumed it, was that all those children are still illusions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I took it.
Yeah, because I was like, why would they?
Yeah, because
have to
remember
show that illusion,
Well, they're doing it because for the actual original Doom Patrol.
Yeah, but it would seem so. I guess Jane, when she goes in there,
maybe she experiences the illusion just as.
All right, that's fair enough. I'll go with that. Okay,
that's my guess anyway. That's my guess.
Okay.
So what did you think about the chief in Mr. Nobody? Once there's a really great scene with them where Mr. Nobody has gotten the chief to divulge his darkest secret to the team. And obviously they're very affected by this. And the chief is going, look, they're not part of this. Let them go. And Mr. Nobody says, well, no, they're not, they're not the focus here. You're the focus. I don't care about them. And this is all about getting him to open up about his secret. And so essentially Nobody gets his triumph. He gets his revenge. Although, like you said, we're not exactly sure for what.
Yeah, okay.
So what did you think about the chief dealing with this revelation? Do you think that he I guess my question is, how do you think the chief is going to deal with this later on? Do you think he cares about how the Doom Patrol feels about him, or do you think that this bothers him? Because we did see some signs of remorse in the flashbacks.
Yeah, I think.
Do you think this is bothering him? I guess is my question.
I think he does have some guilt, and that's one of the reasons why he's kind of adopted them.
Right.
I think he wants, he wants them to forgive him and understand.
Right.
Now that, he never wanted them to know, he kind of, he wants credit for taking care of something he caused himself. Right?
Yes. Right.
So that's how I feel it. But yes, I think he wants them to give him a little bit of discussion, and I think it's important for them to understand that, hey, I had to do what I needed to do. And I think that's unrealistic because, okay, great, you get to spend your time protecting your daughter,
Right.
but I don't get to grow up with my daughter.
Yeah, and that was a big scene between Cliff and him and the chief, where it's like, well, great, yeah, you totally screwed me over. He's like, 30 years of life with my daughter.
Yeah,
And
and also,
so I don't know how the Cliff's going to get over this.
Also, the whole idea of, how do I want to put this? I mean, he's taken all their lives. Now,
Right.
The only one I don't think he specifically did was Victor. I think,
Okay.
unless he caused that accident.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I don't think he did. I mean, I think he was just more brought in as as an assistant to Silas.
Yeah, and I know Silas was very angry with him.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because essentially, well, as we know from the comics, Cyborg isn't a Doom Patrol member.
Yeah. Exactly.
So essentially, he's not really a victim of the chief.
Right.
He's more a victim of his father making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
That we so interestingly debated last time.
Yes.
And so it's more, and it's and we'll talk about this. I guess we could talk about this here.
Well, I wanted
because there was that great scene with him and with Silas after Victor was operated on. They're all covered in blood and after the surgery or whatever, and they have this moment where they're talking to each other, and the chief is going, well, hey, look, Victor's going to need some special care. And Silas is going, well, we got that here at Star Labs. And the chief is going, no. He's going to need something of a more holistic healing. Mm-hmm. And Silas is like, what, you think that, I don't have what it takes to be emotionally there for my son? And the chief's like, well, maybe not. And he's like, you need compassion. And then Silas kind of erupts at this, going, you of all people are the one here talking to me about compassion.
Yeah.
And empathy, really? And I thought that was a great scene.
I do, and I had Silas's back on this.
Yeah.
I also, to prove that both of us were right last week, if you flip to the scene where Vic is talking to his dad, they have now got a relationship. He's gotten past his anger, and so I think that's good, which I think is very realistic. That as you talk about, I say he was a petulant child, but that doesn't mean he isn't. That's how he acted, but he later calmed down, and so I'm okay with him. As you said, blowing up and then later calming down, and going okay. And so now I'm worried that he's lying to his dad.
There's still a little distrust issues there.
But I thought that was, and I know that'll be a thing we'll talk about.
But they do have a line of communication open.
Yeah, which is, I think, so important.
Right. So it's just it's probably one of those things that's going to take some time to probably, especially with Vic, to kind of feel that sense that, okay, I can trust my dad again.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Because essentially it looks like Vic is in his own apartment living apart from his dad still.
Yeah. And he's
still like talking to him. And apparently Silas is still monitoring him.
Yeah.
Because Vic is having this nightmare.
Yeah. And then the whole, Vic trying to figure out his new purpose.
Right.
And, kind of lying to his dad a little bit about what he's doing.
Right.
But, it was, anyway, about the chief, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
It seems, and we're not surprised that he's very selfish.
Right.
And
I did try to warn you early on that the chief is a bit of a bastard here. So
yeah. Yeah.
And
So
sure enough, they proved me
yes.
right.
Yeah. So I think that was great. You know, I do think it would be interesting to kind of rewatch the whole season, to kind of with this new fresh eyes and kind of look at the different timelines.
Well, hey,
Especially,
we are doing a review show
absolutely,
next week,
yes,
so yeah, yeah.
yeah. So,
So
it's gonna be, it's good.
yeah.
Anything else about the chief?
They just all I wanted to bring about that Chief and Silas mentioned there was that Silas knows what the Chief was up to because Eleanor told him,
Yes.
and so he was kind of privy to that. So, which is like that's why Silas is going, really? You're going to talk to me about that, really?
Hmm.
But you didn't think my wife was going to like tell me stuff about you?
Yeah.
My wife, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. All right. Let's move on. Topic number 2. Uh, Don't Look Back in Anger. And this is another Oasis song.
Okay.
Uh, don't look back in anger, I heard you say.
Okay.
Um, this I want to talk about here. I want to talk about the whole Doom Patrol. We kind of talked about Vic a little bit, but let's talk about because I want to kind of talk about how the Doom Patrol is coping with this revelation from the chief. Some of them are taking it not that great. Some of them are trying to move on. And we find out basically we kind of were told that we get kind of a 6-month time jump
Yes.
after the revelation. So I want to get your thoughts on Rita and Larry and Cliff and Jane and how they're coping with all this revelation and trying to move on or not move on, as the case may be, especially with Jane.
So, teenagers are just mean people. Um, and yes, I think there is certainly a little bit of Rita.
Rita got
Yeah, arrogance.
emotionally dissected by a 13-year-old girl.
Yes. So I thought I think it was nice that it was showing her trying to do
Right.
everything. I think
Rita, you're talking about.
yeah, the idea of that they're trying to make her and Larry kind of making their own lives. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, they're kind of like roommates, aren't they? They kind of get their own place and they're hanging out. They have like a little Larry's sleeping on the couch or whatever, and Rita's making sandwiches in the kitchen, and it's very 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 homey for them.
And Jane goes and looks for help, becomes basically a drug addict.
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, I think they kind of hinted that she's been involved with drugs in the past.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like where she goes to, and because we talked about how she went to go see Joshua Clay.
Yeah.
And she got that little formula from Joshua that apparently essentially numbs superpowers and would help Jane cope with her struggle. But she apparently decides, okay, instead of Joshua's warnings, like, well, we kind of need to meter these dosages, and I need to kind of supervise to make sure you're doing okay. And she turns around, just swipes the whole vial, takes it back to the Doom bus where she's kind of hanging out in a parking garage.
Yeah.
And shoots up with it.
Yeah, it was, and then
to kind of numb herself.
And poor Cliff, just going every day, gets food and leaves it outside there.
Well, how loyal is Cliff? I mean, he's still watching over Jane, literally standing watch over Jane in that parking garage.
He is Rory Roman Soldier loyal.
Yes, that's a Doctor Who reference for everybody. Yeah, essentially, yeah, he's the like as you said, Roy Williams of Doom Patrol, where he's willing to stand watch for 2,000 years to protect the girl he cares about. But in this sense, Cliff, he doesn't have much of a life. He just goes out there, he finds a food truck, gets an order. Obviously, he can't eat it which is one of the things he tells Jane when she finally catches him leaving the food,
Yeah.
and leaves it for her to make sure she eats whenever she wakes up from her various drug-induced stupor.
Yeah, I thought that was just
And
really
and then
very
in the
sweet.
meantime, yeah, in between that, he just stands in the parking garage watching, making sure she's okay. Nobody gets into the Doom bus.
Now, I have a little bit of question, and this is
Yeah,
purely nitpicking, not
yeah,
truly.
right.
The um, wouldn't your brain still need to sleep?
I would think so, but maybe Cliff, because of his robot body, can sleep standing up.
Yeah, okay, that would make sense, and then wake up very quickly.
Yeah, because I mean,
That makes a lot more sense.
I'm guessing
Okay.
that maybe he's figured out how to okay, I need to sleep now,
Okay.
and yeah, because your brain does need rest.
Yeah.
The whole point of sleeping and dreaming, as I found out during my insomnia research,
Mm-hmm.
is that he, it's obviously there to kind of process the day's events and to kind of give your brain a rest.
Yes.
So that you can, because otherwise you're not able to function. Sleep is obviously very, very important. And if anyone who's tried to go a day or more without sleep can verify.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, so I have to think Cliff's able to turn his brain off to sleep somehow.
Good. I think so.
Maybe he has an off switch. I don't know.
Okay.
For that.
Good. All right.
He has an app for that. No,
he does have an app for that.
He's probably a little too old school retro. Vic is very analog. I don't know how digital he is, so maybe it's probably an actual switch. I'm guessing. Although who turns it back on if he's asleep, I have no idea. Unless it automatically turns on, like maybe it's a timer, and it wakes himself up. I don't know. Okay. Somebody needs to figure this out because now I'm obsessing over this.
Yeah. Then my work here is done.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Good. So Rita, getting back to Rita and Larry. So we find out Rita is trying to move on with her life. She's somehow hooked up with a high school, and he's teaching a high school drama class. And there's a very funny scene where she's teaching her students, and because apparently they're acting really badly.
Yeah.
And so she goes up on stage to kind of take this young girl's place, and she and she goes through the scene, but she's obviously knows how to emote and how to act, and she essentially gives the young boy in the same scene or makes him aroused because of which I thought was very funny and very high school.
Yes,
that was good. So and then that girl ends up turning around and trashing her.
Yeah, oh boy, you
trolling her.
You can outact a high school.
Yeah, exactly. Who are only taking the class to get the easy A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so you felt really bad for Rita because she was so well intentioned.
She is, though it once again shows that teaching is a wonderful calling. Yeah. And you can't, just because you can do doesn't mean you can teach. Because I think, and my mini rant is actually she could have, if she had been a strong teacher, she could have gotten them, if she had gotten them on their side and worked with that, she could have. But they just felt like she was there.
Phoning it in.
Yeah, phoning it, and just to make herself feel better, I think, a little bit. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Which makes her a perfect target for high school bullying.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think it's only subconsciously she's trying to do this. I think in her heart she's really trying to do things well.
Right, exactly. Yeah. She's very well intentioned, like I said. Yeah. So essentially what happens, all the team gets brought back together at Doom Manor because all of them start hearing, of all things, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, and an old classic from the 90s.
Yep.
If you remember that, if you're a fan of 90s music, you must have really loved this. So they keep hearing this music, and it's not coming from anywhere. And there's this very hilarious scene where Rita is like, um, looks out the window or whatever, trying to find out where the source of the music is coming from. And there's like this old guy who's the neighborhood watch sitting in a folding chair.
Yes.
And he's like, whatever the guy's name is, she goes like, have you heard anything? And he's like, oh, like, I ain't heard anything.
Yeah.
And just like, like, F you, Ginger. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I did not write it down. I watched this late,
Yeah.
but there is a and I
just
bet
thought
you have
that
it.
scene.
Yeah.
Just thought that scene was hilarious.
Cliff makes a funny joke about Chumbawamba,
Chumbawamba.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have that quote.
Okay, good. All right, great.
Yeah, I've got that
Mhm.
quote. I think I know the one you're talking about. So they all get brought back together, and there's another funny scene where like Jane and Cliff hear the music, and then Jane's like, "Do you want to like go F the guy up who's playing that music?" And Cliff's like, "F yeah."
Yeah, exactly.
So they all go up back together, and Cliff's happy about it, and happy they're reunited once again. So then they go inside, and the chief is there, staring at this painting of Danny the Street,
Hmm.
and the music is coming from the painting.
Yeah.
And Cliff has to lower the volume. Cliff throws a blanket over it.
Hmm.
And so did that obviously with Doom Patrol you've seen a lot of weird stuff. What did you make of that scene?
That just felt pretty normal to me. That
For this show?
Yeah, for this show that was.
You weren't thrown by it.
No. I'll tell you when I think they went.
I'm pretty sure I know when
step too far. Yeah, and
I
was offended. I was like, come on, this is just a little silly.
I thought that was awesome,
Okay.
but that's
Okay.
that was fantastic. All right, we'll talk about it in our third segment.
Okay.
But so yeah, they get inside. They go inside the painting, and obviously they deal with the threat that we're going to talk about here in our third segment. So let's move on to our third segment.
Okay.
Where did it all go wrong? And that's another Oasis song. So that was the theme this week, Oasis songs.
Okay. Yeah, I never would have gotten that.
Yeah, I didn't think you would. But
Okay.
essentially they're kind of like a 90s 2000s version of the Beatles.
Okay.
Essentially. So yeah, Live Forever, that was from their 1994 album, Definitely Maybe.
Okay.
Don't Look Back in Anger, that was from their 1995 album, What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Okay.
And this song here was from Where Did It All Go Wrong was from Standing on the Shadow of Giants back in 2000, for all you music buffs out there.
Okay.
And this I want to talk about the Brotherhood of Dangerous Animals. As Mr. Nobody gets himself a team of his own, not the Brotherhood of Dada like I was hoping, so fingers crossed for season 2 for that.
Mm-hmm.
But he partners up with Ezekiel the Cockroach and Ezekiel's buddy, Admiral Whiskers, who makes his long-awaited return. And so essentially these three team up. These three evil villains get to even have a scene where they laugh maniacally.
Yeah.
And this is a very odd trio, and but I kind of dug it. So
I
want to get your thoughts. I want to get your thoughts
Yeah.
on Mr. Nobody and Admiral Whiskers and Ezekiel here.
I loved Ezekiel showing off. Right, we got the payoff. We have
Because he's been being like a prophet whole series, off and on. Like he would recur. Yeah.
We have Chekhov's Cockroach.
Yeah.
For those of you, the famous theater Chekhov playwright said if you show a gun in the first act, somebody needs to be shot in the third act. And so I thought that was a great payoff. And then the whole, hey, I've got a rat, that was, oh yeah, that sounds perfect. So part of me goes, Mr. Nobody, you can do better than this. But for the sake of humor, I thought that was great.
Right.
It's
it's basically the show going like, we're gonna do whatever we want.
Yes.
And I kind of dug that. They went all in. They're like, we know this is insane. This is an insane show. So here you go, everybody. We're throwing everything at the wall here.
Yeah. And that is not necessarily a bad deal.
Right.
Like I said, I I would have liked better, and maybe that's just unfair on my part. I
Yeah.
would have liked a little for the Doom Patrol to be able. This is a giant cockroach. We can beat this person.
Right.
I mean, you would think that Vic's power cannon alone,
Right. Well, they showed Vic attacking Admiral Whiskers, but it wasn't doing any good.
Yeah, and so I don't know if Mr. Nobody gave them some extra power or something.
What happened? We get the explanation here
Okay.
that it wasn't Mr. Nobody. Because what happens is Admiral Whiskers and Ezekiel are both grown to giant kaiju monster size.
Right.
Kind of like Godzilla monster size.
Yes.
And so they're stomping around Danny the street like it's downtown Tokyo. And the reason they were enlarged was not because of Mr. Nobody, but because of the chief's daughter, Dorothy Spinner.
Ah, okay.
And because that's why you kind of see Mr. Nobody, he's running out. He's trying to avoid the giant-sized Ezekiel, trying to avoid getting stepped on by him. And he runs into Peeping Tom's Perpetual Cabaret on Danny the Street. But yeah, while he's there pounding drinks at the bar, Mr. Nobody says, like, hey, like, I had my whole big plan, and then all of a sudden the chief's daughter shows up.
Okay, I missed that part.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's in there.
Okay. So that means that's why.
And so like he goes, I came here because I was hoping to meet the chief's wife, or Slava.
Yeah.
And I meet his daughter instead, and she essentially kicks my butt.
And the idea, has Danny the Street been protecting, do you think, the chief's daughter?
Well, that is explained as well.
Okay.
The chief says that Danny has been protecting her. Essentially, he agreed to watch over her.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think you might benefit from a rewatch on this one.
Yeah, so that may be.
That was explained as well. Yes.
So that explains a little bit more why they're so powerful.
Right, and we find out that that whole big, like that big staircase leading down to where we find out Dorothy has been kept.
Mm-hmm.
That's on Danny the Street. It's in this this doll hospital on Danny the Street, and then Jane goes down there.
Okay.
And so essentially Danny has been watching over her. Danny's been the secret hiding place, which actually makes a great hiding place because Danny moves around a lot.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Always love seeing Danny. There's just nothing bad about that. Yeah.
But so that was explained as well. But so essentially, so we have Admiral Whiskers and Ezekiel, all giant size, and Mr. Nobody's in the bar feeling sorry for himself because the chief's daughter spanked him hard.
Yeah, and turned his two cohorts, and against them. I mean, he's because one of the things we have not talked about is what led to this was Mr. Nobody feeling he had gotten his revenge, and then very funny going, oh, and this will feel satisfying forever.
Yes.
Cut to whatever time frame it is.
Well, yeah, because he realized he forgot about Slava.
Yeah, and he's drinking and just bored with, okay, now what do I do with myself? So
yeah, I've got that exchange between him and Ezekiel.
Okay.
That's my quote. So yeah, that's one of my quotes. But it was very funny, and so yeah, he goes there with all these expectations, and then he meets someone who actually is more powerful than he is. And so as a result, Rita has to kind of talk Mr. Nobody back in the game. Who for some reason decides, okay, I guess I need to stop Ezekiel and Admiral Whiskers now. So I guess I am teaming up with the Doom Patrol, essentially. And she convinces him to kind of take charge of his own narrative again, which he does. And so the way he does that, he kind of builds Ezekiel up to start thinking he's God. And as part of this plan to get everybody inside Ezekiel because he's a cockroach, and cockroaches can survive a nuclear blast.
And they've got to get through the radiation.
Right. The radiation. Yeah. So essentially, the radiation that's going to open them up a portal to get out of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be able to survive that, and Larry could, but everybody else can't.
Yeah.
So everybody else has to get inside Ezekiel. So the way to do that, after Ezekiel swallows up Vic and Rita, they get in there. Cliff, however, has been swallowed up by Admiral Whiskers and is deep inside his stomach. So the only way to get Cliff from out of Admiral Whiskers and into Ezekiel, Mr. Nobody comes up with the idea of like, hey, these two crazy kids are going to fall in love, and they start having a makeout session, and Cliff has to climb out of Admiral Whiskers and into Ezekiel.
And
if you ever thought you saw that coming, you're absolutely lying.
Yeah.
Because you didn't.
So I think this is a perfect.
Yes.
And you said it perfectly, Charles.
Yes.
They went, hey, we're a weird ass show.
Exactly.
We're a crazy ass show. What's one of the weirdest, craziest thing we can do?
Right.
Well, we can have a cockroach and a rat make out.
A giant.
Love it.
Giant
Love it.
cockroach.
Yeah.
No.
Rat. Start out with that, and then what if we made him giant? Yeah. And what if we made it? There's a lot of tongue action. I'm loving it. I wasn't offended by it.
I
just
laughed
was
so
like,
hard at this.
I just rolled my eyes and I said, okay, guys, this is someone. It almost feels like, and you will get this reference.
Yep.
Assistant Editors Month in Marvel years ago.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah, the teacher's out of the showrunner was out. Of course, the showrunner wrote it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just have fun. So I thought it was a little silly, and it took it down a little bit because I wanted a little more
traditional resolution.
I like a little bit of zaniest, but I thought that was a little too much. You know, sometimes you can put just a little too much red pepper in your gumbo, and it becomes.
Well, I'm sure Doom Patrol was looking over at Legends of Tomorrow, going, "Oh, you think you're a weird, wacky show?
Yeah.
Well,
hold my beer.
Exactly. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Top this.
Yeah.
And they drop the mic. Boom.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought. Especially when we think of it that way, that's fine. They were good, and I just was a little like, really? But you know, how fun, right?
And I would be over in the corner going, really?
Yes, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty fun. So I enjoyed it. So bottom line is, we're left with everybody transported out. Because Ezekiel survives the radiation. They get back to normal Earth. Only problem is Ezekiel is a normal-sized cockroach.
Yes.
So when Vic apparently uses a laser to open up Ezekiel and everybody climbs out, and obviously somehow the Chief and Dorothy got in there, I'm presuming because of Dorothy's powers.
Yeah.
With Jane. They're all tiny-sized. The only one that's not tiny-sized is Larry.
Yes.
Who comes out and scoops them out from the lawn to take them inside the house. And Cliff does not deal with it it deals with it as pretty much as you would expect Cliff to deal with it, with lots of F-bombs. And we kind of pan over as the episode ends, and the painting, which is now somehow on the front lawn, is completely white. It's empty.
Mm-hmm.
And the only things that are on it are tiny versions of Mr. Nobody and the Beard Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably they could return at some point.
Oh, they've got to return. I mean, as much as I don't like him, you know, he's
Beard Hunter.
Yeah, he's perfect. And of course you've got to have Alan Tudyk back. So
there was that great funny moment at the end where they realize they're inside the Peeping Tom's Perpetual Cabaret, and the Beard Hunter goes to Mr. Nobody. Okay, so everybody's going to be inside Ezekiel to survive the radiation. What about us?
Mm-hmm.
And then Mr. Nobody kind of looks up and is like, OS.
Yes.
And that's when the explosion happens.
Yeah,
But
was
obviously somehow they survived inside the painting.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll see. So probably season 2 they'll get out somehow.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm hoping that we'll get to see the Brotherhood of Dada at that point, but we'll see.
Good.
But I don't think we've seen the last of Mr. Nobody.
No, I don't think so either.
All right. So anything else about this episode?
No, I liked it. It very much in character with the show.
Right.
As I think you just said it perfectly. In words of poker, they took all their chips.
Went all in.
They said all in.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Shoved them all in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so I think it was fun. It's certainly in the spirit of the show.
Right.
I would have liked a little more of a conclusion, but I had the same complaint about the Titans finale that they're. And
I think this is a better ending than Titans finale.
Oh, but as far as wrapping stuff up, yes, I agree. I think this was a better
because Titans ended on the cliffhanger. This one didn't.
Well, they're small.
Yeah, but that could be. I think Dorothy will be the one that restores them to normal size. So I think that's just a temporary thing.
And this one, I think the reason I think it's a better episode is we actually got a real adventure, not a whole episode of a fantasy world.
Right.
For Dick Grayson. Not that I didn't enjoy that episode. I just don't think it was a very good finale.
Right.
So yeah, this was, and we will talk about this more with DJ Nick next week. But overall, Charles, this has been a surprisingly wonderful series for me. I had read maybe some of the old 60s Doom Patrol episodes when you're
comics,
you're younger than me, but you used to buy the 80-page giants that were all just reprints of 40s comics or 50s comics, and so there'd happen to be a Doom Patrol in there, and then of course a little bit of the Doom Patrol when we watched the new Teen Titans with Gar and everything. So I just did not have a lot of affection for the team. You, on the other hand, because of Grant Morrison and your your fandom. So you went in this a lot more expectation. I kind of went, oh, let's see what they do. And this, I think we both got different levels of entertainment. You got a satisfaction of, wow, I can't believe they took so much of what I loved and put it into a wonderful way. I got the satisfaction of, I had no idea this would be this good, and it is.
Yes. So I honestly think it's one of the best superhero shows out there. That we've seen so far.
And I saw J. Michael Straczynski tweeted that, hey, the pilot is available for free. I think that was smart of them to do.
Yeah, I did. I shared that link as well because a lot of people need to check that out. And if you haven't watched it.
Yeah, and a couple of critics said the same thing you did, that this is,
Gail Simone is on board with it. Comic writer Gail Simone.
Really, really good,
It's such a pleasant surprise, and the characters are real. The writing has been strong. You actually care about the characters, which is one of the things that Titans, I think, kind of dropped the ball on its first season.
Though I tell you what, the more I see the actress, and I'm drawing a blank on her name, who plays Donna Troy.
Connor Leslie.
Yeah. The more I see her on Twitter, where they show her practicing with the lasso.
You see, I saw that video too. I shared that video.
I think she, and even your lovely bride said, perfect casting. I mean, she is. So I'm excited to see this. I think they've talked about the Nightwing costume. I may be stealing some of your Titan Talk news, but anyway.
It's all right. No, you're good.
So the only quote I didn't write it down, but and I couldn't have written it down anyway, but you mentioned it earlier, with Cliff does like 30 F-bombs in a row. I
could have done that. I was tempted to, but
that was so hilarious. And I almost thought, because
the scene I think you're thinking of is when everybody has agreed to go in the painting.
Yeah.
And Cliff feels pressured, like, oh, I'm going to be the effing guy that's going to the effing painting.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
goes
but
off on this,
also
and he goes off on this great rant.
Yeah. The and you know what's hilarious is at the beginning of the series, you talked a little bit that we were still getting the feel of the system. Like, they may be overusing the F-bomb, but very quickly, I think you and I both have, nope, that's what this show is. They are, that is one of the things a couple of these people, Cliff has a potty mouth.
Well, they quickly realized how funny it is to have this guy in a robot dropping all these F-bombs. It's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
And when you have someone like Brendan Fraser delivering it, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
And
okay,
so,
how about you?
Right,
I know you've got some great ones for us.
Yeah, I've got, all right, so real quick. So the Chief and Mr. Nobody are talking in the white space. So you've had your revenge. What now? The Chief says. Mr. Nobody goes, why, sky's the limit, old friend. I'm going to conduct a parade. I'm going to guest host The View. I'm going to become the next Bachelor. The world is a golden oyster for me now, but for you, Niles Calder, I envision a story that's a little different. I've been waiting decades to ask you this. How does it feel to be a nobody?
Yeah.
I thought that was rather good.
Yeah.
A later exchange between Mr. Nobody and Ezekiel, which is one of the things we were talking about earlier, where they kind of decide, hey, we're gonna team up here. Mr. Nobody goes, it seems as though I've left some vengeance on the table. I really got to amp things up this time, really make a show of force. And Ezekiel goes, you need guys? I know a rat who's spent an entire afternoon exacting revenge on the robot who killed his mother. And Mr. Nobody goes, Admiral Whiskers, I love that guy. So I thought that was funny.
That was great.
And Cliff, when the team reunites in front of Doom Manor, so Cliff goes, so my timing might be S here, but I, for one, am grateful that a disembodied Chumbawamba has brought us all back together.
Yes, that I loved that. Yes, I'm so glad you wrote that down.
Yeah, so that was good. And then Jane later on, after they go inside Doom Manor, Jane goes, can I just say there better be a good effing reason why we're here, and it better be to turn off that effing song. Because honestly, I'd rather stick sharks in my vagina than be in the same zip code as you.
Very nice.
Harsh but true, fair.
Yes.
But I thought that was good. And then Mr. Nobody, when he's talking with the Doom Patrol about how to deal with Ezekiel, Mr. Nobody goes, have you ever tried talking sense to a pest while he enjoys his own reenactment of a kaiju movie? It is impossible. So I like that line.
Perfect.
All right. Yep. Great lines. A lot of great lines in this one. So many I couldn't have room to write them all down. So what's your rating for this one?
This was, as I said, a kind of mixed bag for me. But overall, I was pretty happy with it. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 to-go boxes.
Okay. That's fair. Obviously, the ones that Cliff left for Jane in front of the Doom bus.
Absolutely.
I'm obviously a little higher than you on this one. I really like this finale. I thought it just kind of brought everything together and went full all-out insane. So I give it a 9 out of 10 kaiju cockroaches.
Ah, perfect.
So I was going to go with that or either oversized 1977 party sunglasses because of that great moment where Larry comes in wearing in the 1977, it's New Year's Eve 1976, and he comes in wearing those 1977 novelty glasses that are oversized. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I could have gone Monopoly games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good. Yes.
Yeah, the Chief's like, Anybody interested in buying Marvin Gardens? Because I'm kind of
Yes.
hard up for cash. I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty
Y'all
funny.
keep playing. Yes.
That was good. I don't have any Titans Tower news apart from what Jesse said that, hey, they're, talking more about that there's going to be a Nightwing costume. So chances are we'll probably see Brendan Thwaites as Nightwing in Titans Season 2.
Yep.
And as Chris is still looking for his pants.
So there's that's funny, and I make a note at this to edit this out.
No, that's all right.
I went to a buddy of mine's house yesterday
Yes.
to record How Many, the podcast that
Right.
I do for Southgate Media, which is basically just an excuse for us guys together to talk. And so Scott was hosting it, and Scott answered the door in a sarong, sorry?
Yeah,
like
sorry.
The skirt,
Yeah.
And he had no shirt on.
Sorry.
And he's just there, and
maybe it's wrong.
And his wife came down, and his
Yeah.
wife like, I had no input in Scott's, choice of dress. He's like, it's the weekend. This is what I wear. Deal with it. So I was telling that story to Chris. Chris is like, yep, I'm in boxers. I'm cleaning the house. That's what I'm in. He said, tell Charles I'm sorry. I said, no
That's funny.
Yes.
So, all right.
So, he's moving officially in. So the living room where I record, it's the computer room, has been filled with all this stuff. So, yeah. So,
So we do. So I don't have Titans Tower news, but we do have some Tell It to Titan Talk feedback.
Oh, good.
So we do have a thing from Holly. Do you want to read Holly's email?
No,
or
go ahead. You got it.
Okay. So this is on Ezekiel Patrol, the season finale. She goes, "Hey, Charles and Jesse, what an awesome season, or what an awesome finale. Could have also named this episode Honey, I Shrunk the Doom Patrol. Loved Mr. Nobody singing a recap of the whole season up to that point. We find out the real reason why the chief did what he did. Was surprised to see Ezekiel again. It was interesting to see the alternate timeline with the characters. I'm not sure that was an alternate timeline. Maybe the flashbacks, I guess, maybe she's referring to. Admiral Whiskers is certainly more menacing supersized. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
A giant, like 50-foot tall rat. Yeah, I'd say so. This has been an awesome ride. Very glad I decided to give this a try. Wasn't disappointed at all. Here's hoping that we get news of a second season of Doom Patrol soon. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. So thank you as always, Holly.
Yeah, you've been consistent giving us something.
Really glad you enjoyed the season.
Yeah,
Holly.
I do too.
And thanks for listening to us while we talk about it.
And absolutely, yeah.
We really appreciate you, and obviously everybody else that's hung in while we've talked about Doom Patrol Season 1.
Yeah, hey, so Charles,
Yes?
If someone wants to
Reach
give us feedback like Holly, how can they?
Well, I definitely recommend TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. That's TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. You can reach us just like Holly did. Let us know what you're looking forward to with Titan Season 2, what you thought about Doom Patrol Season 1, or just anything else kind of sort of Titans related that pops in your brain. Let us know. Other than that, you can reach us on Facebook at Titan Talk the Titans Podcast, or on Twitter at Titan Talkcast. That's at Titan Talkcast on the Twitter. So please like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, because that helps the algorithms help people find us, and we can grow this community. And also please go to Apple Podcasts and iTunes and rate and review us. It's been a while since we've had one of those, but thanks to everybody who has posted a review, and hopefully you're enjoying our little program.
Absolutely. Perfect.
Jesse, where can they find you?
So I am available at
I thought you were married.
I know. Hey, yes. You can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can hear me talk. We have at least one or two more Game of Thrones episodes on Small Council Matters.
I've seen the finale.
Yes, we did. We spent a long time talking about that, and now then this week we're going to talk about a wrap up of the full season, and I think we're going to do a series wrap up.
Wow, that could be huge.
Yes, it is. You can also hear me talk about the world's longest science fiction television show, Doctor Who, with a certain co-host, Charles Skaggs.
Who, me?
Is where he once again leads me through Doctor Who fandom. That's Next Stop Everywhere. And then finally, Set Lusting Bruce, my Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I talk to Bruce Springsteen's fans from around the world. And you can check that out on the Southgate Media website as well. Charles, how about yourself? Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Definitely appreciate you liking and following me there. And my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk, including Titans news, Doom Patrol news, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news, comic books, movies, TV shows, news of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, and also Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where I talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, etc., etc. And we'll be talking soon about the upcoming Blue Velvet Criterion Collection edition, where we're going to review that release as we go back to that classic from David Lynch and featuring Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern, and of course the inevitable Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
So please check that out. So other than that, that kind of does it for Doom Patrol Season 1, but we will be back next time. We're going to do our Doom Patrol Season 1 review, where we kind of try to recap all 15 episodes in the span of about an hour. Fingers crossed for that. And it's going to be even more challenging because we're getting the return of DJ Nick Pizzagone, and we kind of need to reach out to him to kind of coordinate this. So probably should get on that, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
And because I know he's been wanting to talk once again here on Titan Talk, and we had fun when we did if you listen to our Titan Season 1 review, we had a ball talking that, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So please check that out. And so that'll be what we'll be talking about in episode 36. But in the meantime, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Doom Patrol, our review of that. And stay tuned, and we will talk to you next time and reveal what we'll be doing after now that Doom Patrol is over. We'll just kind of dun. Yeah, we'll do a little dramatic tease there. So anyway, we got that to look forward to. But everybody, thanks again for listening, and we see you next time right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.